Hast du Munition? Munition für dich.
Danke.
Get fokkin rekt. Hi guys, it's Mattias, and yes, for the ones of you that haven't been here in a few days or the last few days, maybe you didn't know it, but I have started playing Battlefield again. I've been streaming for a few days, and I'll try to do so regularly. Now, why so many of us can't get enough of Battlefield 1, why we keep coming back, in my case this time around, it's been a year actually of not playing this particular Battlefield. And yes, that is exactly what I want to talk about in this video. So, let's just start by getting the obvious out of the way. The two later Battlefields that came after Battlefield 1 both were rather underwhelming. And yes, that is probably the most politically correct way that I could express that, and political correctness is part of the problem. But that is a topic that I'm done discussing, at least for this time, so let's just focus on the actual gameplay. Now, one of many things that game developers try to achieve with their games is to design them in such a way that we, the players, get to experience really epic moments. Many times, though, they try to, well, they overdo it, and the epic moments are kind of like pushed in our faces, shoved down our throats, and then they are not all that epic anymore. Instead, what could be epic moments that was probably meant to be epic moments, instead just gets really, really irritating. Star Atlas hacker, alright. Yeah. So, what is it that makes a truly epic moment so epic? Well, there are many different factors that plays in. It's important that it requires quite a lot of player skill, player experience, and that a lot of circumstances just has to fit together at that moment. And you normally also need to have quite a lot of luck for that specific epic moment to occur and to be really epic. The problem is that if a game developer tries to create this, then normally these so-called epic moments, they will happen so often that they cease to become epic and they are just casual gameplay. Now, I'm not trying to say that Battlefield 1 is perfect in this matter, and what's also important to understand is that we gamers, we play a game different amount and with different how do you say it, seriousness or intensity or whatever. So an epic moment that is epic for one player might not be as epic for the next player, depending on how much you play and what you expect from the game. Now, there are quite a number of people watching my videos and streams that will say that Battlefield 1 was just perfect, it was the best game ever, and I want to say massive big thanks to each and every one of you for continuously watching my videos, showing up in my streams, supporting me financially. I really couldn't do it without you, and I hope that this is going to last for many, many years to come, and that we finally, eventually, are going to get that one epic game that can replace and, well, at least rival Battlefield 1. Now, personally, I would say Battlefield 1 is far from perfect. There are many irritation and frustration moments that we in 2016 and 2017 actually thought and hoped that DICE would fix, but they are still here. And some people just get used to it. Me, I normally have a tendency to be more and more irritated the more a certain problem constantly keeps repeating. I have a problem with that. Like, if something happens once or twice, no big deal. But if it's a repetitive problem, it just it grows on me and it gets more irritating. And one of the things about Battlefield 1 is when you're trying to vault over a wall or a rock or something, and not only do you not vault, but you also prone in front of whatever obstacle you wanted to vault over. And that is one of those things that it's a great example of what can make me really irritated with Battlefield 1. So now, with this particular game, one of the most obvious features that was designed and put into the game for epic moments is of course the behemoth or the behemoths. There are quite a number of them. Now, looking at the airship or the armored train, for example, if you're just observing the game, if you haven't played it or you haven't seen it, and you just see this for the first time, this gives you a really epic experience. It looks really cool. However, among players that have been playing Battlefield 1 regularly for a couple of years, there's nothing unusual that they, or maybe I should say we, find the behemoths quite disruptive, and especially again because it's so repetitive. And unlike this, the behemoths are something that we sometimes could be without. Get fucking wrecked! Oh no! I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Of course, it is even more satisfying when it's one of the most experienced and one of the top players on the server, or maybe in the entire community actually, that ends up on the receiving end of that limpet charge. It's one of those moments. Get fucking wrecked! Yeah, that's right. Shrikeab is one of those players that I played against and with countless of times, and always good fights with these experienced players. What I love about some of these players also is that even if I forget it myself many times, talking in the chat and all that stuff, there's always a certain group of people that change to the other team in order to balance the server in case it's needed, and it's needed quite often. Now, in Battlefield 1, I think the maps were designed in a really good way, so that one of the problems with Battlefield that we've seen in many other Battlefields is that the maps are either really open in a way so that you have no cover to move around, or you have these really tight choke points that just becomes nade spam and rockets and whatever explosives, which also makes it impossible to move around, or very difficult. Now, in my opinion, I think Battlefield 1 nailed this a lot better than most of the other Battlefields that I've played, in that sense that you normally have enough obstacles and enough buildings to get cover if you're trying to move from one area to another. It's actually quite rare that you're out in the open without any way of taking cover from snipers, for example, even though there are those areas on some of the maps. But at the same time, you also have enough different paths to get from one area to another, or normally one flag to another, if one of the, let's say, one of these corridors is just impossible to get through. And that happens quite a lot. If the teams are very even and a lot of the fights is concentrated to one choke point, then normally it's just impossible to get through, and you need to find another route. That is another thing that makes Battlefield stand out as one of the better games that I've ever played, and that is that there is always, or almost always, a second, third, or even fourth option if the most obvious route from one flag to another is just impossible to get through. Now, one of the things that does is that it gives the more experienced players, and especially the more teamwork-oriented players, an alternative and creativity, which makes it more enjoyable to play a game for an extended period of time. And being able to flank and attack your enemies from an unexpected angle makes the game a lot more interesting, a lot more strategic, and many times also a lot more epic. I really hope that DICE and EA will learn from not only the success from Battlefield 1, but also the failures of Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042. So now the last thing that I want to share with you guys is that I just recently got home from a 1 month vacation in the Philippines, and I will upload quite a number of vlogs on my In Real Life channel from that trip. So if you haven't subscribed to that channel already, please do so if you're interested. And I hope I will see you guys in the next live stream. Big thanks for watching. They will get me from behind here. Yeah, I hear him. It still works!
Fokkin, pistol jedzie!
Get fucking wrecked! The experience of going there and getting it.
Lance une grenade! Attention! Attention! Grenade!
Oops! I had an accident. What happened?